why your spouse hears something you didn't actually say. Hello, I'm Dr. Debi, and welcome back to the Revolutionary Marriage Podcast. Today we're going to talk about one of the biggest challenges most couples face. Not many, not in-laws, not even parenting styles, but miscommunication. Not the kind that comes from forgetting what time dinner is, but the deep kind. The kind that happens when two people love each other deeply and still manage to completely misunderstand one another. It's not because they don't care. It's not because they're not trying. It's because they're speaking two different languages. Let me tell you a story. I was working with an engaged couple in their early 40s. Now, they were super excited about their future together, but they'd hit a roadblock on their way to the altar. He had young adult children from a previous marriage, and along with their mother, that is his ex-wife, and some of the extended family, they were making life incredibly difficult for him and his soon-to-be bride. He was doing his best to protect her from their verbal and psychological attacks. But at the same time, he desperately wanted to maintain a relationship with his kids. He was in an impossible spot. Nothing he did seemed to help. As they sat in my office struggling to make sense of the monumental challenge they were facing, the woman looked at her fiancé and said quietly, "I hate that I'm causing you so many problems. Maybe you'd be better off without me. Maybe it'd be better if I just walked away." Now, if you're listening to that statement, you can probably understand what she meant, right? She sounded like she was willing to sacrifice her happiness for his, like she loved him enough to set him free from the conflict swirling around them. That's what she meant. That's what her heart was trying to say. And that's what a female would usually hear in those words. But unfortunately, that's not what he heard at all. What he heard instead, I could see it instantly, just by the expression on his face, just by the fear in his eyes. What he actually heard was this: "You'd better get your act together, bud, or I'm out of here." And that landed like a punch to his gut. He was deeply wounded by her words, and he didn't want her to see it. So what did he do? He stiffened his upper lip, and he shut her out. He put up his defenses to protect himself. From her perspective, she just offered love and sacrifice. From his perspective, she just delivered rejection and threat. When I explained this to her, when I told her how her words had landed on him, she looked at both of us in total disbelief. That wasn't what she meant at all. But then he confirmed it. He admitted that's exactly how he heard it. And that was the moment I became the translator between them, translating her expressive female language into his receptive male language, because what she said wasn't what he heard. His sensitivity to rejection, to not being good enough, to failing to please her, that had all colored the meaning of her words. He was listening through the filter of his emotions, through his vulnerability, through his intense fear of being found inadequate. This couple's experience highlights a powerful truth. Men and women are programmed to handle emotions differently. They choose different words. They follow different patterns. And without realizing it, they often speak past one another. Yes, they may both be speaking English, but in a very real sense, they grew up in different cultures, even though they grew up in the same country. Unless you understand that, you'll keep missing each other. You'll both feel hurt. You'll both feel misunderstood. And over time, you'll both start to protect yourselves instead of connecting with each other. Now, here's the good news. This couple loved each other deeply, and even though their engagement wasn't what they had dreamed it would be, the challenges they faced together ended up making them stronger. Why? Because they learned how to face those challenges as a team. They learned how to pause and ask for translation before assuming the worst. They learned how to stop fighting the current and row together toward the shore. If you and your mate are struggling with miscommunication and hurt, you're not alone. This isn't a sign that your relationship is doomed. It's simply a sign that you need new tools. And the truth is, the solutions are often simple. They're just not always obvious, and they're rarely easy. And that's where I come in. That's the reason I created the Breakthrough Marriage Plan, because after decades of working with couples, I've seen the same pattern play out over and over. Good people, in love, trying their best, but getting stuck in cycles of miscommunication, not because they don't care, but because they don't understand the differences between men and women. I know that sounds silly to say, but it's true. So in this workshop, I'll show you why your words don't always mean what your spouse hears, how men and women are wired differently, and why that matters so much. Simple strategies to translate one another's language so you actually feel understood and connected. Now, this is the first step in building the extraordinary marriage you deserve. So let me ask you, have you ever said something to your mate only to realize later they heard something completely different? Have you ever felt like no matter how carefully you choose your words, your message still gets lost in translation? If so, you're not alone, and you don't have to stay stuck. There is a way forward. You can learn to hear one another clearly. You can feel understood. You can feel connected, and it all starts with a breakthrough marriage plan. So if you're ready to stop fighting the current and start rowing together toward the shore, I'd love for you to join me. You'll find all the details at revolutionarymarriagecoaching.com. Thanks for watching this episode of the Revolutionary Marriage Podcast. If this was helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs encouragement today. And I'll see you in the next video.